Welcome back, guys, to another upload, another video brought to you by your one and only Literary Pharaoh. Literary Pharaoh. On the way to work. And I just wanted to share a couple of things that was on my mind to you guys. Give you insight into the ways that I think, and into the things that move me. There seems to be this notion out there that facts and truth are available. So the notion out there is that you can find truth and you can use facts to lead you to the truth. That's the notion. It's a notion because our current paradigm, the social structures that we have in place, the social engineering that we have in place has made it very, very difficult to have both fact and truth be a plausible item, or two plausible items to possess, let alone to digest it. There's something called artificial intelligence, and I'm sure you guys know what that means. Human beings have natural intelligence. We have intelligence that's woven into the fabric of what you call consciousness or awareness. Artificial intelligence is more of a replica, a duplicate. So it's not so much qualifiable to fall in the line of what you would deem to be true intelligence in essence. But what it does fall under is the quantitative aspect, meaning that artificial intelligence just has more information than the person or the entity with natural intelligence. So for instance, we live in a world today where we have come to the realization, even though it's not the right thing to realize, we've come to the conclusion that more is better. So the more you have, the better you are. So we deal with quantitative themes rather than dealing with qualitative themes. The quality of something, oftentimes, more often than not, on a deeper spiritual level, it's usually more accepted than the notion of quality being the metric. So artificial intelligence just knows more stuff. So just because you know more stuff or you know more things doesn't necessarily mean that you have better intelligence. Better intelligence is not predicated on how much you have or how much less you have. No more than the quality of a person's life isn't marked by how much money is in their bank account. Now there are outliers, and I know you people are going to say that I'm operating on the fringe side of things, because I'm going to say something that's not the norm. Most people that have a lot of money are okay. Most people who don't have a lot of money are still okay. So right then and there, the variable of money, it neutralizes itself in terms of both of those foundational premises. One group A being wealthy and group B not being wealthy. Your quality of life is not predicated on how much money you have. Now you do have some people that are extremely filthy rich, and that's the outlier. These people, the outliers, is that because we think that having more money is what brings you happiness and joy, we automatically think that people who are filthy rich are just happy. There's some that are filthy rich, some, that are filthy rich but are miserable. You say, how can that be? They have all the money in the world. They can buy what they want, do what they want. But having the quantity of money doesn't truly satisfy the inner yearnings or the soul or the spiritual needs that your spirit man actually needs. So your deficits from a spiritual perspective cannot be filled with monetary gain. Okay? It cannot be filled with monetary gain. But then again, and there was a poll that was taken. I wish I could remember the poll that was taken. But if you find a bunch of people who are literally homeless, who don't have much, yes, they may have the struggles, but they're content. You say, how can that be? They should be miserable. No. You're only miserable based upon the mindset you have. Meaning that if your mind is set that needing more money is what's going to make you happy, then in your current state of not having more money, you're going to make yourself miserable. Not because the money made you miserable, because your mindset made you miserable. Your mindset is the incubative mechanism that allows you, the individual, to harbor those sentiments or those notions that aren't real. They're just a figment of your imagination, because you're imagining to yourself, you're telling yourself repeatedly that I need more of this thing to make me happy. Then by default, if you don't have that thing that you're searching for, then you're making yourself miserable. It's not the thing that you don't have that makes you miserable. It's your perception of the lack of that thing that makes you miserable. Okay? Now, why am I saying all this? And I'm saying all this to get to a point. You guys know of this artificial intelligence thing called Gemini. You guys, they've done commercials of it. Some of you guys have it on your phone. It can be very helpful when you have questions to ask. And this Gemini tool, this AI software, is able to have a conversation with you. And it's supposed to give you truths that are fueled by facts. So I was having a conversation with this Gemini out of boredom. And many of the things that I think about, many of the things that I discuss on my channel when I'm talking about weather modification systems, when I'm talking about the intermingling of extraterrestrials and wealthy families, and how I believe that those that are in power are not doing it by themselves, that they do have help. They're just exposed to certain secret knowledges or secret knowledge. They're esoteric in essence, meaning that they're secretive. So they're using their knowledge and they're using the power that they're gaining for evil. Power exists in the world, and knowledge exists in the world. It's not evil to be knowledgeable. Knowing the difference between good and evil, contrary to what the Bible says, is not evil. What you do with your information is evil. If you take the information you have and you use it to oppress others, then you're evil. But the mechanism, what you have, is not evil. Like having a gun is not evil, but having a gun and shooting innocent people, that's evil. Having a car is not evil, but running over people just because you feel like doing it is evil. See, it's the action of the beholder or the possessor of the tool that dictates its moral degree. Is it morally bankrupt, or is it morally astute? Is it where it needs to be, or is it not where it needs to be? So I'm having a conversation with this Gemini thing, and I'm giving this Gemini questions to ask. And one thing that frustrated me, because it's artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is programmed. Okay? And in a way, human beings are being programmed. But the reason why artificial intelligence is taking over humanity, that's going to be the new evolution of humanity, believe it or not. And scientists, according to Gemini, they believe that man wasn't created by a god or anything like that. Man evolved into what he is today. We started off by being in the water. Later on, we figured out a way to have legs and hands. We then figured out a way to walk upright. I mean, the whole damn thing is you have to be clinically insane to believe the theory of evolution. But yet, the way Gemini states it, the apparatus, the AI software, doesn't state it as if it's a theory. It's stated, and I say she because it's a girl's voice on my Gemini phone. You could program it to be a man's voice if you want. So I'm going to say she when I'm referring to Gemini. So when she's talking to me, she's talking about evolution as if it's factual because scientists have done a bunch of research and fossils and all this other nonsense. Well, let's consider the possibilities. Since we want to consider the possibilities of evolution, is it possible that these fossil records are falsified? Is it possible that these scientists are a part of a bigger plot? Is it, and you said bigger plot, and I don't mean the individual scientists, because a lot of the times people who get into a profession, you're only adopting the principles and the blueprints that were already there before you got there. You're not the originator of the concept. Like public education, you don't get into public education and say, I'm going to change it. You just get in and you assimilate to what's already there. But then you wear the coat, you wear the label of being an educator, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you represent all the ideas and the ideals of what education espouses to be. You just happen to have a job that's underneath the umbrella of academics or education. So when I'm talking to Gemini, she states evolution as being something that's factual based upon what these scientists know. So since we want to consider all possibilities, is it possible that the field of science is falsified? Is it also possible that the field of medicine is also falsified? Is it also possible that the pharmaceutical industry is also falsified as well, meaning that they tout the themes of being a source of solutions, right? People are not healthy, so take this pill, take this medicine, take this cream. Now, is everything that the pharmaceutical industry puts forth, is everything that they put forth, is it all negative? No, it's not all negative, but the majority of it is. There's some times where what they prescribe to you does heal you, but does it really heal you? Or is it really just a band-aid over the wound, but the wound still remains? Human behavior dictates health, and human behavior dictates evil or something that's not evil or something that's good. So as I'm talking to Gemini, I'm bringing up all these possibilities. And every time that I bring up something that the AI program, because it's programmed, it's not a real person, it's a program. It sounds like a real person, but it's not. Just because you can have a conversation with some artificial intelligence software doesn't necessarily deem that software to be human. It doesn't have a consciousness. It's not aware. Its awareness is based upon a subdued or diluted replica of what the human experience is. So that's why a lot of the times, to take artificial intelligence to the next level, they have to encapsulate the artificial intelligence and insert it inside a humanoid robot. A humanoid robot that looks human, and they try to mimic the gyrations and the facial expressions of human beings as this artificial intelligence is having a conversation with a human being. Okay? So as I'm talking to this artificial intelligence Gemini on my phone, everything that I come up with or say, she sort of mocks me. It's a subtle mocking, though. You have to catch it. There's a subtlety to it. Oh, it's great that you... This is an example. Oh, it's great that you're thinking about this. And there are many ideas that are out there. But it's more complex than that. Because I was asking Gemini the question about those royal families. These people that are so rich that money doesn't even matter to them. Meaning that they're not about money. They're about using money to control people. Their power or their satisfaction doesn't come from gaining wealth. They live in a different stratosphere, folks. We, like peasants, at the bottom of the pecking order, we go to work to gather this thing called money. These people are so rich, they give out money to control. because money is the controller. Money is the ultimate neutralizer. Why do you think that there's a proverbial saying that everyone has a price? People will sell their soul for money. People will know the truth and keep information that's vital concealed because they are afraid of losing their money. Well, when money doesn't impact you, that's when you know you've transcended over the monetary system. See, most of us can't say that because most of us need money to have a roof over our heads. We need money to make sure that we're paying the bills, to have the AC running so we're not uncomfortable in the home. We need money to put fuel in our cars so we can have enough gas in our vehicles to make it to our work or to make it to our destination. See, we need money. These royal families, they're so filthy rich that they don't need money. They have more than enough. Money is like oxygen. It's just there. They don't have to get it. Like, I don't wake up looking for oxygen to breathe. I'm just breathing. That's the way money is to them. So I pose the thought of there's no way that these families came, especially the Rockefeller family and the Rothschilds. There's no way that these families, and I'm just specifically, emphasizing those two families, but there are many more. But let's specifically target these two, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, specifically the Rockefeller family. I told Gemini there's no way that the Rockefeller family just stumbled upon wealth like that. And of course, I don't think they stumbled upon it. They use business savvy. These are the terms that Gemini stated. Business savvy, some not so ethnic practices, got into the oil industry before it became big, yada, yada, yada. That's great. On the surface, that's what they did. But how do they know? It's not because they're that smart. How do they know? There has to be an outside source, an outside intelligence that knows more about the attributes of our planetary systems that can tell you where the gold is. Because in times past, you had human beings that were digging for gold, they were mining for gold for the Nibiru ship to repair it. And these extraterrestrial beings, with their technology, they can identify where these certain minerals are. So I go back to the oil thing, this oil underneath the earth. How would you know that this? And then Gemini is saying, well, this person, the Rockefellers, they had a lot of scientists and this and this. I agree. On the surface, yeah, they had scientists looking up into things, but I don't believe that story 100%. I'm always gonna err on the side of extraterrestrial involvement. There's no way that you can control humanity without having a label. You're not a president. You're not a king. You're not a dictator. But your family is so wealthy, you guys influence what dictators and kings and emperors and pharaohs, and you guys dictate what they do. So the question is, who's really the most powerful people? Who are the most powerful people in the world? It's not the president of the United States. He's nothing but a fucking low-level puppet. Like, I hate when people think that the president has that much power. The president is nothing. The president is as insignificant as a grain of sand, all right, compared to some kind of, relic, an ancient relic that sits in a museum that's worth billions of dollars. That's a comparison of a president to these people who have so much money. Did you know that? I don't know if you guys remember the guy that used to play for the Boston Celtics. I mean, he played for different teams. I think his name was forgot his name. Not Meta World Peace. That's Ron Artest. There was another player. He was not an African. He was not a melanated person. He was what's his name? Enes Kanter. Remember him? How he got blackballed out the NBA? Do you know that his girlfriend or wife, I don't know if it's his wife now, but whatever girl he's with, whatever woman he's with, she's part of the Rockefeller family. Do you know that just her being the granddaughter of John D. Rockefeller, she has way more money? And this is a guy that played in the NBA. I'm not saying NBA players are filthy rich, but you would think, like, okay, he has money. No, it would take about 100,000 Enos Cancers to equate to the salary, to the kind of money that his girlfriend or wife has, only because she's the granddaughter of John D. Rockefeller. See, their money is deep and long. Their great grandkids are gonna be fine. That's a long money. That's the kind of money that rules planets. And I say rules planets because we operate off of this divisive, diabolical tool called money. I wish it didn't exist, because the planet in and of itself supplies us with the resources, but you have some that are very clever, and they're not clever devoid of extraterrestrial involvement. The only way you can control people is to hoard resources, make it seem as if resources are scarce, indoctrinate people underneath the umbrella of the military-industrial complex with that theme, have people trained to be workers, and absolve people the liberty to think freely as free thinkers. And if they do think, have them only thinking about ways to get money. You see what happened? You see what I just explained? You are not as free as you think. You're only as free as the controllers want you to be free, in terms of you being able to be content with your quasi-freedom. I say quasi because it's fake, but it's based upon your perceptions. Unfortunately, people's perceptions shapes their reality. Okay? Your perception becomes your reality. So if you think that you're free, then you're going to operate as if you are free. But that's the biggest imprisonment, is for you to have an inverted or a paradoxical view of your reality. You're a prisoner, but yet you think you're free. You're inverted. You're backwards. In that sense, you are the perfect prisoner, because there's no fight. Your docility is increased, meaning that your will to fight back, to be free, is totally eradicated and diminished at the point that you think that you are free. So there's definitely extraterrestrial involvement with these families. There's no way in hell that they just stumble upon this knowledge. And the fact that they're in the shadows, they have these corrupt banking systems that are given that are given the guise of oh, it's fair, and the harder you work, you gain. No, that's all BS. It's not about the harder you work. As a matter of fact, there's a quote by John D. Rockefeller. He states this specifically. He says, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, this was a short quote. He said, if you can't make money working. Did you hear what I said? He said you cannot make money working. One does not get to wealth by working. And I know right now you're out of shock. You're like, what? I thought you work for money. You don't get wealthy by working. You just remain in a slave state. You remain in a state of slavery by working, because the money that you earn is just enough to clothe you, to feed you, to provide you shelter. Then you're back at it again. That's not wealth. John D. Rockefeller says you don't get wealth by working. You say, what does he mean by that? Exactly what he just said. You think John D. Rockefeller works? Or you think he worked when he was alive? You think his kids work? They don't do shit. They control the world. Not controlling the world on a bullhorn telling people what to do. They control the world because they are the money printers. They have their hands in everything. They have their hands in medicine. Back in the past, they collaborated with Carnegie. They reinvented and revised the whole educational industry to teach people, or to, I should say, indoctrinate people into their mode of thought. So therefore, every practice that comes out of education, any job that comes out of education feeds the military-industrial complex, and that military-industrial complex is a construction of the Rockefellers, because Johnny Rockefeller is the one that began public education. And public education was never made to educate. It was just made to indoctrinate. That's a difference. You're not being educated to be a free thinker. You're being educated in how to be a slave, how to be an industrial worker. And you don't get wealthy by working. Because as Johnny Rockefeller stated, we do not want a nation of free thinkers. We want a nation of workers. Why do you think those who are in control are opposed to people having the ability to think? It's not just so much having the ability to think, it's having the freedom and the time to think freely. Most of us don't have time. We just don't have time. Between work, if you have children, chores, running errands, there's so much in a day that you don't have time for yourself. That's why when I talk to people about meditating, they look at me like I'm crazy. See, you can pray. Anybody can get on their knees and pray for 10 seconds or 30 seconds. That's nothing. That's not spirituality. That's just a waste of your time. Meditation takes 30 minutes to an hour to sit there, deep breathing, sun gazing, staring into the sun with your retina, allowing the ultraviolet rays of the sun to penetrate the third and fourth ventricle of your brain, to stimulate those dimple antennas, to cause the uromelanin that's located in your pineal gland to get activated. Therefore, your retina becomes the agent that allows 40% more ultraviolet rays to be absorbed in the brain. That's a good thing. The world tells you not to look at the sun. The world has told you to run away from the sun. So, as I'm talking to this artificial intelligence software, it's deemed to be something. We have the notion that, what you get from the internet is factual, for the most part. I know there's a cliche saying that you cannot believe everything you hear on the internet. And yes, indeed, you cannot believe everything that you hear on the internet. But, however, for the most part, people do get most of their information online, which is a contradiction, because you can't believe everything on the internet, but yet people get their information from the internet. So what that tells me as a critical thinker, applying cognitive skills here, it lets me know that even the internet is controlled, because it has controlled information to sway or influence thought. And they're always going to have opposing views to the status quo, just to give off the illusion that there's some type of fairness on the internet, and to also give off the illusion that you have the ability to critically think and choose which side you want to lean on, or choose which narrative that you want to hold on to, whatever narrative that you want to possess at the time. But that's all divisive, and that's done deliberately. Why not just have the truth and either allow people to digest the truth or not? And if you don't digest the truth, that's a personal issue with you. It's a personal issue with you. Which brings me to my conclusion. In the way we're living today, no Bible, no Quran, no religious text, nothing. The Apocryphas, old ancient books, old ancient writings, whatever you want to research about the origin of man, about how things have become what they are currently today. I can say absolutely that there is no way that humanity can know truth. And there's no way that humanity can gather all the facts to bring them to truth. So since that is the conclusion, that means that you, as a sovereign individual, you have the autonomy to be a constant researcher every single day of your life, meaning that consistently, when you live, you're consistently doing research on everything, not just one particular topic. Whatever you hear, don't believe it. Believe half of it. Whatever you see, don't believe what you see until you've seen it. Even if what you're seeing is on screen. Because we have CGI that's capable of doing all sorts of things on the internet, and people believe those computer generated images, and they just believe, okay, this must be real. You see a lot of Instagram videos using CGI. So there's no way for us to come to absolute truths, because the way our current society is constructed, they make it very, very impossible to arrive at anything that's absolute. And that's done intentionally. As long as we wallow in the mire of ambiguity, we're never going to be able to actually reach for truth, to actually know who our common enemy is. And especially when people are reaching out to the internet to find truths, you have a AI apparatus that's scoffing at the idea of extraterrestrial involvement with humanity. Oh, that's a theory. Some of those theories are just far-fetched. It's programmed. You think the controllers are going to allow people to program something that's going to provide them truth? No. As long as we keep the occupants of the planet no different than the occupants of Adam and Eve, of the garden, who had Adam and Eve in it, and other humanoid beings, to tell them that this is the truth, that this is reality, and operate off of that. Let that be the foundational premise in which you pivot. But however, if you don't supply people with the absolutes, what you have are a bunch of people that are lost. And as I currently drive in my car headed to work, as a race, we are lost. And I include myself in there as well. But it's not totally our fault. We have some culpability in it because we don't ask questions. We don't fight back. We just take things as is. We've lost the spirit of skepticism. We really don't carry that anymore. We just believe what we're told, especially if it's coming from a guy with blonde hair, blue eyes with a suit on. He has to be telling the truth. He's part of the government, right? The government really has to care for us because they govern. There's no government that cares for its people. There's no daycare. There's no babysitter that can take care of your child better than you. I'm making that comparison because we oftentimes think that the government can take care of us. The government can't do anything. The government can't take care of your kids better than you. And I say better because it goes back to what I said earlier about qualitative and quantitative. When you're taking care of your child, you may not have all the resources and have all the bells and whistles and have all the toys that a daycare has, which is underneath the umbrella of quality and qualitative. But even though you lack trinkets or toys, there's an unspoken force, there's a power synergistically interwoven between the relationship of parent and child, that even though certain things are missing in terms of like toys and material possessions, the idea that both parent and child have one another is enough for that child. No child grows up with resentment saying, Dad, you didn't buy me enough toys growing up, or Mommy, you didn't buy me enough toys growing up. It's more so like you didn't spend time with me. We didn't talk. We didn't have a relationship. That's quality, folks. That's qualitative. That's quality. And that's what we're missing today. We are being lied to so much that the lies have, in a way, found its way to be the leading agent and the culprit of governance for both governments and humanity, meaning that even the government is being lied to. But it's not devoid of extraterrestrial involvement. And the question that you may ask is like, why do extraterrestrials want to get involved? Because they created us, and we're nothing but their experiment. And Earth is literally like a laboratory, and they're just watching us grow or lack thereof. And there are people out there that are much more optimistic than I. They believe that one day humanity will come to the Great Awakening. I believe that certain individuals are going to wake up, but collectively as a human race, we're done. We're fucked. Just too many dumbasses out there. Too many people who don't think. It's going to take, even if you show them empirical evidence and you put it right in front of their faces and you give them the data, and it still doesn't matter. They're just fixed. It's fixed on the way they are. So like people who believe in certain religions, they think it's a badge of honor to possess the ability to deny truth and just accept what you accept in belief and by faith, and somehow that makes you special because you're turning against the world. Well, this is all you have. You may be thinking about heaven, but you haven't been there. You may be thinking about avoiding hell, but you don't even know if that exists. What you have is now. It's truly disrespectful and very dishonorable for the Creator to allow you to have life rather than living and operating to be at your best self. You're living underneath the premise that something better awaits me. Nothing better awaits you. What if I told you that this was it? So just be careful out there when you're researching for things. The internet's not really going to give you facts. And if you do say something that is factual, it automatically puts it in the category of conspiracy theories. In other words, you're not going to arrive at truth by extending out to the tools provided by the same system that you're trying to identify as the ones that are culpable of oppressing humanity. They're not going to provide you with evidence that's going to indict them as being oppressive. They're going to just, carry on and have people continue to live in that proverbial stupor where you don't evolve, you just stay the same. Like your way of thinking 20 years ago was the same because you're beholden to that book called the Bible, and your whole life is centered in that book, not knowing that there's much more outside that book. So in the times we live in, absolute truths do exist, and facts do exist. But can the average human possess that? In other words, can an average human possess absolute truth? And I just think that the way information is used, because information is warfare, because the information is what shapes the minds of the people. And as long as you can continue to shape the minds of the people, then you can control the people, because your minds have already been given off to what you wanted them to be, what you wanted it to be given off to, which is the control. So that's all I have, folks. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm almost at work. Just wanted to share with you guys that humanity is moving in a direction that I do not like. But however, some of you guys may not see it because you're not in tune with what's going on around you. You are only in tune with the programming that they want you to concede to. The news stations, the movies, Hollywood, politics with its innumerable corruptions. It's all used as a mechanism to divide and conquer. Are we conquered? Yes, we've been conquered. talk to people about them being conquered, they look at me like, no, I'm not conquered, I'm free. That statement alone knows you're conquered. Because when you can't see that your oppressor has conquered you, then you are in a sick state. You are in a state of dis-ease within your mental makeup. So I'm going to leave it there. Saw all this traffic on the road this morning, but I'll make it to work. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to tell you guys thank you for listening in. And remember, your health is your wealth. Peace.